My brother-in-law's wedding reception took place in a ballroom that seemed designed to impress people who were used to being impressed. Tall glass walls overlooked the city lights. White orchids decorated every table. A projection screen at the front of the room had been cycling through childhood photos of the bride and groom all evening. My husband, Eric, looked relaxed. He always did well in rooms like this: easy conversation, confident posture, the quiet assumption that life was moving in his direction. I stood beside him through most of the early reception, smiling politely at relatives and colleagues. To everyone watching, we looked like a normal married couple attending a family celebration. The truth had changed 3 days earlier. I travel for work occasionally. Conferences, client meetings, long days in unfamiliar cities. Our house had a security system that sent alerts opened while we were away. Usually ignored them. The first notification came while I was boarding a flight home. A front door unlocked. I assumed Eric had forgotten to disarm the system when he came home early. But later that evening another notification appeared. A front door unlocked. Different time. Eric was still texting me from the office. Something about the timing felt wrong. When I landed, curiosity replaced the mild concern. The security app kept short video clips attached to each alert. I opened the first one. The front door opened. A woman stepped inside. She moved with the confidence of someone who had already been there before. I watched the second clip. The same woman. Different day, same familiarity. Over the next hour I scrolled through the archive. 4 entries, 4 separate visits. Each time while I was traveling. The footage didn't show anything dramatic. Just small details: her setting a bag down on the kitchen counter, her walking through the hallway, Eric greeting her casually at the door. The kind of casualness that only exists when something has been happening for a while. I didn't confront him. Not that night. Instead, I watched the clips again, not out of obsession, but because I wanted to understand the shape of what had already happened. At the wedding reception 3 days later, Eric stood near the bar laughing with his cousins. His phone lit up once in his hand. He glanced down quickly. The name that appeared on the screen was the same one attached to the video files. Claire. I took a sip of wine and said nothing. The evening continued. Dinner arrived. Toasts were made. The bride's father, Mr. Caldwell, gave a polished speech about family partnership and building something lasting. Mr. Caldwell owned a consulting firm large enough that his name appeared regularly in business magazines. I had met him briefly at industry events before. He remembered people who worked hard. That was his reputation. After the formal speeches ended, the microphone was passed around for shorter congratulations. Eric's sister spoke. One of the groom's college friends told a long story about a disastrous road trip. Eventually the microphone reached our table. Someone suggested I should say something. Go ahead, Eric said lightly. I stood. The room quieted the way rooms always do during wedding toasts. Politely attentive, expecting something sentimental. As I walked toward the stage, the projection screen behind me displayed a photo of the couple from their engagement shoot. I paused near the technician operating the slideshow. Could you show something else for a moment? I asked quietly. He nodded without hesitation. The image changed. The first frame appeared. The front camera from our house. Timestamp visible in the corner. A woman standing at the door. The room was still in a way that felt almost physical. The second image appeared. The same woman entering the hallway. The third. Her sitting at our kitchen counter. No commentary, just evidence. I held the microphone but kept my voice calm. She can have the memories, I said. The sentence hung in the air. I'll take the house. Eric stood frozen near the bar. His face had gone pale in a way I had never seen before. The room remained silent. Not because people were shocked by betrayal, but because the proof left no space for interpretation. I stepped away from the microphone before anyone could react further. The technician quietly returned the slideshow to wedding photos. The reception resumed slowly, conversations restarting in cautious tones. Eric didn't approach me. Instead, he walked outside. I finished the glass of wine at my table and stayed for another half hour, speaking briefly with relatives who were trying not to ask questions. Eventually I moved toward the terrace. Mr. Caldwell stood there looking out over the city. He turned slightly when I approached. That was precise, he said, not judgmental, just observant. I didn't want to make a scene, I replied. He studied me for a moment. You didn't, he said. We stood in silence for a while. Then he asked something unexpected. You're still at Meridian Consulting, correct? Yes. I remember your market strategy presentation last year. I nodded. He continued watching the skyline. I'm restructuring one of our divisions, he said. I need someone who understands pressure and keeps control of a room. The implication was clear before he finished the sentence. If you're interested, he said. I'd like to talk about a director role. The offer didn't feel like charity. It felt like recognition. I'd be open to that conversation, I said. He smiled slightly. Good. Inside the ballroom. The music had started again. Eric remained somewhere outside the building, probably trying to piece together how the evening had shifted so quickly. Over the next few months, the consequences unfolded quietly. The divorce process moved forward. The house, purchased mostly with my income during the early years of our marriage, remained legally mine. Eric's career didn't collapse overnight, but the story from the wedding traveled faster than he expected. Clients prefer stability. Scandals, even quiet ones, make investors cautious. Meanwhile, I began working at Caldwell Consulting. The first morning in my new office felt strangely calm. Floor-to-ceiling windows looked out over the same city skyline I had seen from the wedding terrace. A brass plaque beside the door carried my name. Director. For a moment I thought about the house again. Not because of the property itself, but because of what it represented. Years of work. Long nights building a career. Everything Eric had assumed would remain quietly behind him. The house was still mine. But more importantly, so was the life that followed.